Ella, seeking solitude after the overwhelming chaos of city life, found what she thought was an escape in a remote cabin deep in the mountains. Surrounded by towering pines and ancient forests, the cabin offered peace and isolation. The landlord, however, warned her with cryptic advice: keep the fire burning at night and avoid wandering too far after dark. Dismissing these warnings, Ella relished the quiet of her new surroundings, enjoying solitary hikes and cozy evenings by the fire. On the third night, as the sun set, an eerie, unnatural silence settled over the forest, and a faint whisper on the wind startled Ella. "Turn back." Initially, she brushed it off, thinking it was just her imagination. But the whispers continued, growing more persistent as the days passed, and unease crept into her thoughts. Sleep became difficult as the sounds of the night seemed amplified, the creaking of the cabin and the wind's gusts louder and more urgent. Driven by both fear and curiosity, Ella ventured deeper into the forest the next day. The trees, ancient and gnarled, seemed to close in around her, and the air grew thick and heavy. She eventually reached a clearing where the trees parted to reveal a small stone altar, half buried in moss. As she approached, the whispers grew louder and clearer. "Leave now, or never leave." Despite the warning, Ella reached out to touch the stones. As soon as her fingers brushed them, the ground shifted beneath her feet, and the trees around her groaned as if waking from a long slumber. Shadows, dark and smoky, began to slither toward her. Terrified, Ella ran, but the forest seemed to trap her. The path she had taken disappeared, replaced by an impenetrable wall of trees. The shadows pursued her, their whispers growing louder, calling her name. "Ella, Ella, come home." Her breath ragged, she stumbled through the forest, branches clawing at her skin, the growl of some unseen creature vibrating through the ground beneath her feet. In a panic, Ella finally broke through the trees, finding herself back at the cabin. The door swung open, and there stood the landlord, his face pale and hollow. In a whisper barely heard over the wind, he told her, "You shouldn't have come here." Without a word, Ella rushed inside, slamming and locking the door behind her. But the shadows were already inside. They crept along the walls, and the whispers filled the room. The fire flickered weakly, casting long, distorted shadows that danced across the wooden floors. The cabin, like the forest, was alive, and it was waiting. Ella's understanding deepened as she stared into the flames. The forest had never wanted her to leave. It had drawn her in, and now there was no escape. The forest had claimed her, just as it had claimed others before her.